All right, so normally when I'm shooting these videos, I'm doing all kinds of things about pens and ink and how to use them, how to clean them, that kind of thing. It's a different style of video today. So I'm actually gonna be reacting to another video that I saw on YouTube. And this is from a YouTuber called SciShow Psych. So they have all kinds of like psychology and science related stuff. I don't know, just stuff that I was kind of like watching just personally, casually. And I came across this video that was really interesting. It was called The Science Behind Our Niche Interests. And talked about fountain pens being a niche many times. And I just was thinking so much about like, oh, that really explains some things about, you know, why fountain pen people might be into fountain pens, or like just some things about the fountain pen community. So I don't know, I don't really have a strict plan for this video, but I kind of wanted to just show y'all the part of this video. It's like a 26-minute thing total, but there's really about 5 minutes in the middle of it that just was so rich in terms of, you know, things that I think speak to the fountain pen community. So I'm gonna watch the video, show it to you all, and kind of react throughout it. And I really wanna, I have more questions than I have answers, so I don't know, I just thought it was an interesting topic of conversation. So I'm really hoping it can be kind of engaging for you all in the comments, and we can just, you know, sort of riff a little bit and have some good commentary around this as a general topic. So I don't have any affiliation with them, but I did reach out to them and, you know, said, hey, I wanna, you know, post about your video and kind of react to it. And they said it was totally cool. So if you want to see the whole thing, I'm going to link to it down in the description. You can check it out and check out the rest of their channel as well.
That's not where our affection ends. Like, look at IKEA furniture, or really anything we build or make ourselves, whether it's actually nice or not. What is it about these wobbly tables and crooked bookshelves that makes us so attached to them? Here's one from Britt.
You know how when you build something yourself, like a table from IKEA, you're really proud of it? It doesn't matter that it's a bit wonky and you have some leftover screws that were definitely supposed to go somewhere. It's still beautiful. Easily as nice as anything you could have bought at that fancy furniture store in town. You might even think it's a little bit better than those other tables. Well, hate to break it to you, but it probably isn't all that special. You're likely experiencing a phenomenon known as the IKEA effect, a cognitive bias where people misguidedly put a higher value on something just because they made it themselves. And understanding why you love that wonky table so much could help you live your best life. Harvard researchers first wrote about the IKEA effect in a study where they had people make IKEA furniture, fold origami, and build sets of Lego blocks. The participants felt that their amateur creations were as good as expert versions. Not only that, they priced their handiwork way higher than other people did, and thought everyone would appreciate their creations as much as they did. Now, multiple studies have shown this effect. Labor does kind of lead to love, and it's not just with flat pack furniture. It applies to pretty much anything you can customize. Experts suggest that the IKEA effect could also apply to things like home renovations if you take a do-it-yourself or DIY approach. And even something as small as picking the color of an item can make you see it as more valuable.
All right, so this is where it like really started. I mean, I like furniture, and I love assembling stuff. So when I can buy furniture and assemble it myself, I actually really love doing that, weirdly. Little hack. So if you have like this IKEA type furniture and it's like a bookshelf or anything that's a little flimsy, first off, the backing is most of the stability, which is kind of interesting. But I always put a little bit of wood glue. Like if you have any of those wooden dowels and you're just like hammering the particle board together, if you use wood glue, it makes it a little more sturdy. Little hack there. But yeah, this part here, we're talking about like picking the color of an item can make it seem more valuable. I'm thinking about like, wow, with fountain pens, because like the being able to pick the ink color or even a pen color, like to me, that is like a disproportionately valuable part of what makes fountain pens interesting, as opposed to, you know, a roller ball or a ballpoint or even a pencil. So I don't know, I just found that to be really just like ping, like hit me in the brain. Like, oh yeah, that is a huge portion of the value that I place in my own like fountain pen and writing experience, is that customizability, the choice that I have to pick a color. So kind of interesting, huh?
But there's nothing inherently better about things you screw together or paint. They're not made from higher quality materials or something like that. You just think your self-made stuff is better than the off-the-shelf version. That's the IKEA effect. And psychologists have a few theories as to why it occurs. One is that making something, even if you only put one screw in, makes you feel accomplished and competent.
So that's really interesting. First off, they're talking about it as if like the core of the IKEA effect here is like, if there is actually no difference in quality, the effect is that you perceive it to be higher quality just because you did something with it. You know, fountain pens, it's like, well, you're not really isolating the quality of the materials from other writing instruments because you are actually dealing with different materials. I think in many instances you are actually dealing with higher quality materials than maybe you are with other pens or other writing instruments that you maybe have used before. So I don't think it's just the IKEA effect going on there, but definitely I think part of maybe what goes on in where we value the writing experience is the fact that we are getting to choose some of the things, and there's like a personal connection, a personal value that we place in that choice. Kind of interesting.
That's because the shelf or whatever acts as physical proof that you successfully did a thing, a kind of trophy, if you will, which you can show off.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case. Like, there's definitely a sense of accomplishment when you can fill a pen on your own, clean a pen on your own. Anybody new to fountain pens, I think can resonate with that feeling. Like, you definitely feel like you've accomplished something. And I don't know, there's like a good, feeling of like independence and accomplishment when you've been able to like fill a pen on your own. It's kind of neat.
And those bragging rights give you an emotional boost. Another reason you might be extra proud of your DIY project is because you believe it saved you money. Research has shown that if you feel like you're a smart shopper, basically that you're somehow responsible for getting a discount or saving money on something, then you feel happier and better about that product. And it may be that building your own stuff enhances something called the endowment effect. The fact that simply owning a thing can make you overvalue it.
So this is really interesting. And I was aware of this effect. The IKEA effect was something kind of new that I hadn't really heard about before. The endowment effect is really interesting. They're going to explain more about it. But I think that is a case, especially because like if you're buying things, really anything like from a store, as soon as you own it, you feel connected to it. And it's interesting because I reflect on this because, we're a retailer here at Goulet Pens, and we're dealing sometimes with a pen that somebody's maybe just gotten in their possession. And it's a physical object, right? But like, we deal with people with troubleshooting products. Sometimes there's quality issues and warranty things. And we'll help troubleshoot that as much as possible. That's part of the retail like customer service experience, right? But it's really just fascinating to see just like how emotionally invested some people get with a product that they've literally just received in their possession. And I think maybe some of this endowment effect might actually be because of that. So I don't know. Let's watch more about the endowment effect.
In studies, people consistently say they'll pay more for stuff they own, even if it's the exact same as the other stuff being offered, and even if they just came to own the stuff like 30 seconds ago. And researchers in 2016 found that building something leads to what they called psychological ownership. Basically, the feeling that you own it even if you technically don't. But when it comes to the IKEA effect, many psychologists think it's mostly the result of effort justification. That's the idea that the more work you put into something, the more you like it, because you have to convince yourself it was worth all the trouble.
Yeah, I think that resonates a little bit with the fountain pen hobby. It's interesting because I've never heard of this, this whole justification thing, effort justification, but it's like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like, okay, it maybe has a little bit of a negative connotation to it, but like for sure, I definitely feel more invested and more accomplished and value my own writing experience because of the amount of time that I put into learning the fountain pens. But it's like, legitimately, I think it's a better writing experience. But I think like maybe there's a little small part in the back of my brain that's like, am I just kind of fooling myself that I love these things just because they're a lot of trouble and I've had to go through it? I don't know, kind of interesting. I'd love to hear what y'all think about that.
If you didn't, then you'd end up feeling cognitive dissonance, the mental anguish that arises from contradicting ideas in your head. Essentially, it would just be wrong for you to have worked hard to make something that isn't valuable. And since you can't go back in time and not put the effort in, the easiest way for your brain to fix this discrepancy is to jack up the perceived value. The idea that the IKEA effect can be explained by effort justification does make a lot of sense. But more recently, research has suggested something else might be happening.
All right, so before we get into that, I think the cognitive dissonance thing, I see that a lot with people who, and I've experienced this myself too. You hear about a pen or an ink or something like that. You hear about other people having a certain experience with it. You set in your own mind that you're going to have some kind of experience when you get it. But then when you get it, even if it's not a bad experience, it's just different than what you thought. That cognitive dissonance just is disappointing or upsetting or whatever. And then you have like a personal connection to this object that you now have in your hand. This is very fascinating. Just like these ideas that are kind of like all melding together a little bit into some of what I know I've experienced myself and many of our customers have experienced over and over again. It's kind of fascinating. But anyway, let's carry on.
thing. In short, you might like your own creations because you believe they're an extension of your identity. That table is a part of you. At least that's the conclusion of a 2018 study in the journal Cognition. The researchers looked at the Ikea effect in children by having them build monster toys and found that it basically doesn't show up until around age 5. That's right when kids really start to have a good idea of who they are, what psychologists call a self-concept. Intriguingly, the amount of effort the kids put into their creations didn't affect how highly they valued them, and they still thought their own monsters were better, even when they knew from the start that they wouldn't get to keep them, suggesting ownership or the trophy effect weren't really in play. So the researchers concluded the Ikea effect most likely comes from people viewing the things they make as extensions of themselves. And that
Yeah, like I see that a lot in fountain pens. I experience that for myself. I mean, look at me, I love the color blue, right? Like it's Goulet pens, blue. There's a lot of that going on. But wow, like the idea that you're actually selecting something as an extension of yourself, like how many blue inks do I have? How many blue pens do I have? You know, it's really, really interesting. And you know, I see this when there is, you know, pens of like numbered pens that are limited edition. I mean, obviously that whole, what is it, the endowment effect there with the sense of the ownership, right? It's like having a numbered pen that's just your number, like that makes it feel so much more special, right? Maybe it's tapping into that a little bit. I don't know, but it's really fascinating, just the extension of yourself kind of thing. I think, you know, if you're looking at it purely just like in this psychological concept they're talking about like basically all else equal, this psychological concept is like making you think something that maybe isn't there or whatever. But I think that, you know, fountain pens, you know, I don't know, maybe don't embody this, but like they tap into some of that a little bit. Or I think the I don't know, like the preferences that we have or the extension of ourselves that we may feel, the fountain pens and the personalization behind them, the ink choices that we have, the notebooks that we choose, that is an outward expression. I don't think it's the fact that we have these products that are making us, you know, feel, you know, this personal feeling. I think it's more that we're choosing the products that we feel are reflecting ourselves. So it's you know, it's like, is it the cart before the horse kind of a thing? But it's really fascinating to hear about this as a concept that's broader to all niches, not just fountain pens, but I definitely see it happening a lot in that realm.
That's not as weird as it might sound. People often use their possessions as an expression of who they are. Just think about the car you drive or the clothes you wear. So when you personalize something or have a hand in making it, you may see it as more representative of who you are. In the end, psychologists haven't pinpointed exactly what causes the Ikea effect. And it may be that some combination of these ideas is what makes you so enamored with that table, no matter how crooked it is. If all this has you feeling a little manipulated by your favorite furniture company, it's good to keep in mind you can use the Ikea effect to your advantage too. Like it could help you get your family to eat healthier meals. A study published in 2018 looked at the eating behavior of children between the ages of 5 and 7 and found that kids who were involved in preparing food ate more of it, even if it was a salad. They also ate more dessert too, if they helped make it, but who can blame them? And there's nothing to say that loving your cheap, self-assembled furniture is a bad thing. At the end of the day, if you think your creation is beautiful and it sparks joy, as Marie Kondo would say, that's all that really matters. So go on. Love that wonky table. Is crooked and beautiful.
Yeah, so this whole idea here was really fascinating to me. There's a lot of stuff kind of packed in there. But I thought it was just kind of fascinating to think about, like, you know, why do we all gravitate to certain things in the fountain pen world? Again, I don't think it's that it's like manipulating or even a negative thing really in the grand scheme of things, because I've seen really nothing but, you know, positive stuff coming out of people in the fountain pen community and being able to express themselves and see the expression of others. I think it's actually a beautiful way that kind of lives out. But it's kind of interesting to see that there's, like, you know, other studies and stuff that have done that maybe show some of why that might actually be happening. So I don't know. I am not a psychologist. I am not, you know, anyone qualified to really talk about this at all, but I just found it really fascinating. I wanted to share it with you all. You know, given that I've been in the fountain pen world for 13 plus years at this point, I've seen some of these concepts trickle through and I experienced them for myself in many ways over the years. And I thought it was interesting to talk about some of these. So I'm very fascinated to know what you all think. And if you have any, things that jumped out at you that you've experienced or noticed of others. So I'd love to hear about it in the comments if you're willing to share. And I don't know. So different kind of video, not pushing any products or really talking about anything like that, but it was kind of fascinating to just think about the fountain pen community as a whole and how we all might just kind of fit into it from a psychological level. So leave me some comments if you want to check out any fountain pens. Of course, you can check out gouletpens.com. Anyway, thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and right on.